Good morning. You're now listening to Kingston Community Radio, airing on FM 92.5 and AM 920, WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Panel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you and mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information or to donate online, visit our website at mykcr.org. Good morning, and this is Dan Gatis, and it is a Thursday, February 3rd, and we woke up to about 37 degrees this morning. We'll be right back after these messages.
Okay, let's settle down. Since today is career day, stand up and tell the class what you want to be when you grow up.
I want to be a pilot,
soccer player,
fireman, a judge.
Kids dream big. As a parent, you can protect those dreams by keeping your kids healthy well into adulthood. If your son or daughter is 11 or 12 years old, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help protect them from 6 types of HPV cancers later in life. To learn more, visit cancer.org/dreambig.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Eleanor Arrow from the town of Ulster, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And we're back, and you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. And it's 7:02 a.m. right now, and a little bit about our weather for the next couple days at least. Cloudy with periods of rain today. Of course, that's a 100% chance of rain today and tonight. And overnight, significant icing. It's very likely that with a low of 26, we're going to get 100% of the chance of ice as the rain freezes. And Friday, a wintry mix in the morning will transition to some snow showers in the afternoon, and some icing possible there too. A high of 28 with a 100% chance of snow on Friday. And Friday night, mostly cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy after midnight, and a low of 7 degrees. Now we've got a great lineup today with Don Williams and Lawrence Maxwell. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
We're good. We're good.
This is Donald Williams, and today we have co-hosting Lawrence Maxwell.
I know,
who's the man here.
Well, I try to be really.
What a privilege I have. I wake up this morning, I come to the radio show. I have Lawrence Maxwell co-hosting, the owner of the radio show, and then my favorite of all people behind the microphone in the studio, Dan the Man.
Dan the Man.
Thank you, Don Williams. How are you?
I'm doing well today, Dan. Thank you.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Had a wonderful dinner. I don't think I saw you Tuesday.
Dan doesn't. Dan, you don't work Tuesdays at La Canard, do you?
I used to on a regular basis, but we've slimmed down a little bit during the
January
during the early
is a
part
slow
of the
month,
year.
Yeah, is for restaurants.
So by March, it's back to Tuesday night.
I think Mariners actually shuts down for the whole month right after New Year's. I know Sal says
I was there
maybe
last night.
Okay, well maybe
I don't think he serves dinner.
Okay, but the bar's open up front. Now the back is closed, right?
I did not go in the back. I was invited to come down with.
Are you out every night? You're like Mr.
You got to realize there were 2 months.
Okay.
That I was not permitted for health reasons to go anywhere.
So you got banned.
So I'm making up for lost time at this point. I was at Kennard on Tuesday, and last night with Ian Harwitz and Chris Sesh, 2 of my favorite short people.
There's 2 guests. There's 2 guests for a future show.
I will. Oh, no, I'm afraid of
Ian is a big supporter of the Happy Christmas Phone. So
Ian and J&A Roofing support the entire community so much. But I went to high school with Ian.
Okay.
He was 4'8" in high school, and he's 4'8" today.
I was gonna say he's still pretty small. That's funny.
And Chris,
He was
played basketball.
Yeah,
for
I was
him. He
gonna
used
say
to own Ugly Gus's. Used to own a restaurant.
Sherlock's.
Sherlock's, right across the street from the courthouse. Dangerous place.
Gave me my first
A
job.
bar and restaurant right across the street from the Ulster County
And
Courthouse.
I'm telling you, it was a great place. We used to do our WGHQ. This is back, when I was like, 10 or 11. We used to have a St. Patrick's Day celebration that GHQ would do. We would go. Well, Sherlock's was the one that started at. Eventually, we were at the Hurley Mountain Inn, and we went all over. But we would broadcast live from there all day. Bill Skilling would be there.
I remember Bill, much like Dan. Dan has a great voice.
He does for radio, doesn't
Bill
he?
Skillen. Was it Skinlin or Skillen?
Skillen.
Skillen. He had
Skilling.
what a great voice he had.
Skill,
also.
I-N-G. Yep, Bill Skilling.
I had totally forgotten about him. I remember.
I mean, he used. Yeah,
Dad well.
Yes, he.
When he used to bring me in first when I was a young assistant district attorney. I was Kavanaugh's chief assistant. And then as DA, and then when you become a judge, you have to be far more cautious what to say. But I would come in, and your dad, you talk about asking some tough questions, boy. And it was great. It was just a real challenge. You could be very honest in responding to the questions.
Nothing crossing the line, I hope.
He was, no, he was always very respectful. But, I know your dad forever, too. Who have I forgotten the other two?
He took the radio thing very seriously.
He was
great. We're still here, so.
I was on with, he was, I believe, the
both.
mayor of Woodstock. He passed away early. He was a real nice guy.
Oh, you're talking about Jeremy Wilbur.
Jeremy Wilbur. What a great guy.
Bill McKenna has his
Jeremy
job.
didn't quite know what to get. Jerry's a little left of center.
Jeremy Wilbur
Actually, Jerry was a little left of Karl
Jeremy,
Marx.
actually. Jeremy Wilbur was his name. Yeah.
But he didn't know what to get.
Him and my dad got along quite well.
Yeah, and he also
He was really
great.
far left?
Yes, and then Ray Rice, who was
Ray Rice.
supervisor.
Yeah.
That was an interesting group of interviewers.
Yeah.
Not like today when we throw softballs. Lawrence.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, no one's going to accuse you of throwing a softball, Judge.
Oh, no.
Especially not the last time you were on the air.
Well, last time was perhaps. What exactly does it mean when, I don't even know if I can say this, when the person who's receiving the questions calls me hard-nosed?
I mean, it just means that the particular, we won't say the particular guest name in person, but I just think they just didn't like the question, or maybe they weren't expecting you to ask it. I was standing where Dan was that day, and I didn't think it was over the line.
Oh, no, I think the person didn't respond that negatively, but hard-nosed. Honestly, that may be one of the nicest things I've ever been called in my 40 years of being a DA and judge. Hard-nosed.
The way I understand talk radio is that you're supposed to ask. That's what the listeners want to hear.
I'm absolutely well. If
we sit here and
no, and she is excellent.
Oh, yes,
great. But I used to enjoy those interviews because I came prepared. I knew after the first meeting, I knew the questions that were going to be. They didn't tell me,
right?
But I came prepared, and it was enjoyable. It was, it was
good because
discussion I could have as a lawyer. The judges, typical judge vote, would ask real tough questions, but I couldn't always respond exactly how I felt to the man wearing robes. So.
Right.
But he
until
was
you were
great.
wearing a robe one day yourself, so.
Yeah, the 10 years, quite big difference.
I'm glad that you actually brought that up because nowadays, and I'm not going to throw any politicians under the bus, but nowadays we can't get certain politicians on this radio without them handing us a list.
I don't
ask us these questions. Ask Hugh Reynolds and Mario Catalano about that. And I
hope Hugh and Mario bring me.
They're on tomorrow.
Back in as a guest sometime. I enjoy.
You know what? I'll bring it up to them tomorrow.
They ask tough questions.
They're not playing any games. And let me tell you something. They haven't had a guest in like 2 or 3 months. They don't really need one. The two of them, Hugh sits here, Mario sits where you are, and they just go. And I'm telling you, when I'm like this at 9 o'clock. Hey, it's time to get off the air, and they're still going.
And
then they get up, they walk down the hall, and they're still going.
The strange thing about that is, they get up early in the morning, they walk together, and they talk.
Yeah.
They come to the radio show together, and they talk. They
Yeah,
leave, and they talk.
And they talk,
You
and then they go
think
to the
they would
diner,
get
and
sick of talking.
And
but
one
no.
is super. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Hugh is a conservative Democrat. He's not. I wouldn't even say he's.
I would say
left.
I'd say moderate, just left of center.
And Mario is a Republican, and is, you know, but
I guess
to see the
Mario's-
two of them hash things out and work things out. I wish some other of our lawmakers that could, you know, also Democrats and Republicans could do that.
The other thing I enjoy is Hugh is an instigator.
Oh yeah,
and I think
they
he
play
likes,
off each other perfectly.
He likes to get in Mario's knickers. When I was invited on, without going through the details, right near the end, Hugh asked the one question that would instigate. And that was fun, because now I can say whatever the hell, excuse me.
No, hell's
whatever
okay.
Hell's okay, whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
Can't, for 10 years as a judge, and for a long time as district attorney, the ethical restrictions are strong. But as a judge, you basically can say nothing about the criminal justice system when you're off the bench.
Right.
So now it's enjoyable. When people ask, I can say.
Right, now you can give your opinion. And as far as I know, because when Carrie Savona became a family court judge, we wanted to get her on, right away. I'm, friends with Danny Savona, I've known the Savonas all my life. Me and Manny are on the board of directors at Lions together. And she's like, I don't think I'm allowed to, I'll check, but I don't think sitting judges are allowed to come on the radio. Now, DAs are different.
Yeah, DAs don't have that
different.
same
I
restriction.
know Kavanaugh used to be on all the time. Holly Conwright was on all the time.
I was on.
I was in
You
Florida
weren't
when
around
you were a
once,
DA. Yeah, I wasn't around then. I missed your DA thing.
That's too bad.
Well,
because those interviews were interesting. But
So you were coming on Wednesdays then? You must have been coming on Wednesdays.
I know I came on at
Because my father
7
was on
o'clock.
Wednesdays. Yeah, my father was on
They
Wednesdays.
brought me on early, and I wanted to say at some point, guys, I'm in work. I'm in the courthouse at 7. I really would like to come on sometime closer to 8 when people are actually listening, when they're in the cars.
Right.
But I think that was Kevin Cahill's period, and he brought donuts, and I couldn't afford to bring donuts.
Now, that's funny. Now he brings, God, I remember how many years ago that was. Now he brings
Right, yeah.
market basket bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. And let me tell you something.
I
And
shouldn't say this,
muffins.
but
And
now I
muffins.
can.
And coffee.
I wonder if that's coming out of Kevin's pocket or the campaign fund.
I don't know, but I saw
You
you
should
must
ask
have
that
read that
question.
article in the paper then a while back. No,
No,
Kevin's been nothing but great, even though I don't.
Oh, he's very
sometimes
supportive.
I don't really agree with all his political views, like the 10 cents, raising the bottle deposit to 10 cents. Like New Yorkers aren't paying enough tax. You didn't read that in the paper? How he wanted to?
The Daily Freeman?
Yeah. You don't really.
Or as Sean O'Brien would say, the Shad Rapper?
Open mic with Sean O'Brien. Do you know, when I was young, we used to listen to that at dinner because he was on it I think it was on at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night.
I just do remember that
There was always a
only
radio
one
on
thing
in
that
my house.
Sean O'Brien did. I really liked Sean O'Brien.
Yeah, he was very
he
good.
covered a lot of the major cases I tried when I was a young
Open
assistant.
mic with Sean O'Brien.
But he also would come to court and back in those days, the reporters were in court every day. Matt Sperring, Tom Wakeman from the
Right.
Freeman, the John Milgram, who could be a real pain in the rear end, but a great
I actually see
reporter.
John Milgram works in the Ulster County office building now. I see
He
him
has
outside.
one of the high positions with the county executive.
Oh, but he's not his deputy though. Because
He is a deputy county. He may have got
Him
appointed.
and Nina had we couldn't get Pat to come on the air. Excuse me, I don't know if he
You
was
know,
busy
I'll
or-
ask. I don't know Pat that well. I know the Ryan family.
Good
quite
luck,
well.
because every
I'll ask
host,
Pat.
besides you has asked him to come on. And,
Well, I'll feel like I'm a success again. if I
we can
get-
talk about that off the air.
Give me some people that you want on.
Oh, I could give you a list of people that I want on. But this
Because in 40
what we talked
years
about
of
on
prosecuting cases, Lawrence, I have a book.
I know you do. And
No, I'd
let me
never-
tell you, if this
Pat
guy
Ryan
never
is-
became a judge or a DA or went into criminal law, he could have been a comedian. Because his stories, they are a little. I'm telling you, they are funny.
Can't
man.
tell them on radio.
Well, not at least.
You know
not the one
something
you
I've
told
got. My
Tuesday
son, who I love dearly, I rarely see. He's in Roanoke, Virginia. He went down to New Orleans. You would never believe he is the greatest young man in the world. You'd never believe it. He's got long blonde hair that he normally wears in dreadlocks.
night. Really?
He has tattoos that have to be covering at least 50% of his body. What do they call it? A septum? A nose ring?
Oh God.
He's a great-looking, handsome young guy, extremely bright, tall, thin, very creative, writes poetry, has a master's in
talked about
English
this right-
lit
right
from
here.
New Paltz. And what is he doing with his living right now? And I'm very happy and proud of him. But he's beginning to get A little disappointed he hasn't advanced the career more. He is a barista in New Orleans, plays in a band at night, and writes poetry. And, for someone like me that was brought up by a man who was the precursor Navy SEAL frogman, you have goals and objectives, and you've got to work hard, and he works hard. But anyway, he writes wonderfully, and I want him to write a book about the experiences I've had, which so many of them are horribly tragic and so gut-wrenching. Some of them are quite humorous, that when you can talk about those, to get through 40 years of doing those cases, Lawrence, and do them as you should be doing them, which is really caring. You also have to, for the less significant ones, maintain a sense of humor. And you've heard some of those stories.
Yes.
I want him to write a book, and he keeps saying, yeah, Dad, maybe I'll do that. And then he looks at the volumes of stuff I have that has accumulated over 40 years, either newspaper clippings or I have
kept it all?
I've kept my wife who's deceased, but would keep every clipping, and before that, my mom would keep the clippings.
I have a suggestion for you. Send it to him, since he's in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Send it to him as a separate secure file by scanning it all.
Oh, you know how long it would take me to scan it?
You can scan a page per 1.5 minutes. I can fill you in on that.
I have a scanner at home.
Or he could just
to,
come home
to
and visit
scan
his dad.
those clippings have to be done. And you know what? What I will do, I should start. I have all of my summations from every major trial that I tried as an assistant and district attorney, and those summations tell everything about the cases. So everything is there.
Mm-hmm.
It could.
Well, you don't have to send it all down to him at the same time,
Well, I think the real intelligent way, because he's struggling financially.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he could do anything he wants,
right.
But the money you get as a barista or playing in a band at night in New Orleans is not great.
Right.
The best way is to send it down with an advance under PayPal.
Right.
And then he'd feel somewhat obligated.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But he would love to do it. And can you imagine that? To have a legacy at this stage of your life, when you're done with your 40 years and retire, you say, what is my legacy?
And who better to do it than your son?
To have your son.
He's lived through quite a bit of it himself,
How old is your son?
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
He's 30 now.
Okay.
And he's as close to an anarchist that you could come with. He's a vegan. He's very far left. He came home for about a period of 4 or 5 months about a year ago and stayed with me when I was having some significant health issues and he needed to escape the New Orleans environment. And that was an interesting 4 months because we had some really deep conversations about politics, about life. He's cool. Anyway, sorry to take up so much time.
No, that's why you're here. We love hearing all the stuff that you have to offer.
Did you hear what when we had? Go ahead.
No, I wanted to bring up one thing. I don't know the exact date, but I do know the month. 20 years ago, sometime this month, KCR started. Okay, so I just found this out yesterday. We knew it was 2002, and we knew it was February. I'm going to find out today from my mother what exact date it was. But Brian Waltman, when last time Hugh and Mario were on. Right after TR died in January of 2002. Within a month, my father and mother had started KCR when we were on John Street. So I'm going to find out the date today, and then I'll report back, next time we're on the air or tomorrow or whenever. So this month marks the 20-year anniversary of Kingston Community Radio.
That's a benchmark, boy.
It is.
Really.
It is. And all, publicly funded through underwriters, through listeners, through donations, through, it's crazy. And to think about if we didn't, if my mom didn't go and get that hip procedure done 2 years ago, right before COVID, we might not even be on the air because that building is still not fixed on John Street.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And there's still no one in the upstairs. I walked by there to go get lunch.
Who owns that? I
wasn't going to throw him under the bus, but Jerry Salente owns it.
Is Jerry the front? I don't mean front.
No,
man.
he did have a partner, but I think I know we paid our rent. It was there was a two-process name on there, but Jerry's still uptown.
I don't.
He owns he bought the Mohegan and he lives above the Mohegan.
Again, is I'm not sure. Is Jerry the person buying it?
No, he owns.
He's quite a character.
He owns pretty much those.
Okay.
He owns. He owns Harry and Joe Thayer's old house. The one that he owns at 43
For
Crown.
those of you that don't know, I was born and raised in the
right?
shadow of the courthouse, right on Crown Street.
Right, but you actually were there
Thayers-
first before the Thayers were there because
Thayers
they didn't
lived
move
down
there
the
until
street.
like the late 50s, early 60s, right?
Well, I wasn't born until '53, so I don't know. All I remember.
Oh, so
when
you
I-
were young. Okay.
When I was old enough to
Well, your
know
parents
what
were
was
there
going on,
before.
yes, my grandparents were there. My grandfather.
They
came
lived
over
in that
from-
house too?
My grandfather.
Your
came
mom was
over
a
from-
sweet little lady. I used to see her all the time.
She was a great lady,
She
unless
was.
God forbid you ever said
Everybody
anything
in
negative
uptown,
about her
Mrs.
kids.
Williams, everybody uptown loved her. Everybody uptown.
She
loved
was quite the person.
her. So real quick, we got a couple minutes before we go to break. I was reading something in the Post while I was away about Governor Hochul is thinking about revisiting the bail reform, which I thought was
How long overdue is that? The problem with
very long
politics, and I don't
overdue,
mean
but
to
the fact that she's actually thinking about it, if she does, maybe
She has to, because her poll numbers are going to go down. That's the sad thing about politics. Now, the people that are in office are voted in, and they do represent what the public wants, and I agree 100% with that. But at the same point, you cannot be changing decisions simply because of political popularity. Sometimes you have to make the decisions that are right. That bail reform is a disaster, was a disaster from the outset. It was typical of the New York State legislature.
And what are we entering our second year with that, or is it just our 1 year?
Bail reform, I was on the bench until the end of 2019.
And it started in 20
Bail reform had already passed, but
But it
had
wa-
not taken effect
Until January of
Until I think it was January of 2020, and
Okay, so we're entering our
and then
second
you have
year
a
of
DA
it.
like.
It's definitely been over a year. I thought it started right before COVID did.
But honestly, there are still methods that you can take the violent criminals.
Right, we have to. Right, I understand where they were trying to aim it at. Like, let's not throw somebody in jail for something.
Absolutely,
Let's not overcrowd the jails. Right,
And this
I get that.
typically, again, it was the right thing to do some reform of bail, but do not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
And what happens
That's
is,
a good point.
and it happens, they seize those few cases that are really wrong, that demonstrate that there has to be reform in bail, just like with the Rockefeller drug laws.
Right.
And they make them the banner bearers,
Right.
and they change everything.
The
And
Rockefeller drug laws went on for decades, though, right?
Rockefeller drug laws
started in the 70s.
occurred because of the fact that there were too many deaths, horrible addiction, especially as it came about with crack cocaine and beforehand. So once again, it went too far to the right, and the pendulum just swings back dramatically each way instead of looking at it in a more encompassing manner and a fair manner. But, right now, the DA in New York City saying that armed robbers are not going to be
Alvin
prosecuted
Bragg
as
we're talking
felonies.
about. Yeah, that is nuts. That is crazy.
And that's New York. Unfortunately, be careful what you ask for.
right.
People that vote people in like that.
Well, when I was on, we did a New Year's Eve show here. Dan Gruner and Fran DiPetrillo do every other Friday opposite Hugh and Mario. So we did a little New Year's Eve predictions. My New Year's Eve prediction was that Eric Adams will, go to the Albany and get this bail thing overturned because obviously the crime is way worse in New York than it would ever be here. I mean,
there are certain misunderstandings too. You have to understand that bail reform, and it's horrible what the bail reform has done, but the law of bail in New York State has always been atrocious. Do you know, as a judge, you can consider many criteria in the past, before this bail reform, in determining whether you should set bail at all, let the person out, release them on their own recognizance, set some bail, or remand them without bail. The criteria are many different things. Do you know what one of the criteria is that you cannot consider?
What?
Community safety.
Really?
Yeah. That's always been the law. You cannot consider risk to community safety in setting bail. Legally, that's not a criteria. But if you're intelligent enough as a judge, you look at the other criteria that is spelled out. So, for example, if as a judge, if I set bail at $100,000 cash, $50,000 property, which means you have to come up with $100,000 cash, or you have to put up property that has equity, that has value, that worth $100,000. You can go buy a bail bondsman or whatever.
Put up your house.
Put up your house. But in doing that, if I said the reason I'm doing this is because this murder, I would never set $100,000 on murder, be remand without bail. But if this murderer, this robber, this burglar, I'm doing this because if he gets out, he's a threat to community safety, that would automatically go up on appeal, and I would be reversed if I said that. However, this is what's so ridiculous.
You got to watch your words when you're actually
If
setting
I
bail.
looked at the other criteria, which is flight risk, and I would say this is a murder. It's a Class A felony. The defendant faces up to 25 years in life for prison. As a result of that, out of the fear of being convicted of that sentence, he is a tremendous flight risk, and I can set the bail I want or remand without bail. Now, I've said basically the same thing, but I cannot.
You have to keep within the letter of
You
the
have
law.
to stay,
Yeah.
but still, it is ridiculous
now
because
they
the
get out unless
legislature is specifically stating you should not consider threat to the community as a criteria for bail, and that's horrendous.
You read the Post?
I used
You're
to
gonna
read.
you're gonna
the
have to read
sports
this
section.
sidebar. A little similar to something
Oh,
else, someone else we know.
I did read something about Whoopi Goldberg. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. She's furious. Anyway, real quick before we go to break, we have three wonderful guests today. Bob Baum.
Bill Calderera is first, the CEO.
No, Bob Baum is first.
Oh, you
matter of fact,
reversed
I think
that
I was furious of texting.
he's in the green room.
Is he really?
Yeah, Bob is here.
Bob's here. Yeah.
One of my favorite.
Bob is great.
Favorite 12 Skill members and also visitors of the Canard, the fine French restaurant Canard.
Yes, Bob. And actually, I met Bob at Raj's Deli over here. This is years ago. Over here on right across from Stevens used to be.
Raj is one of my favorite
Washington and
people.
Lucas, and Bob does all our wonderful signs here. The stick, when we come through the glass doors, all those.
Yeah.
He does all of it.
Nice
all
job.
everything on the door. The stuff
know
you
that
see.
Bob did that.
Everything but the posters on the wall. He does everything. So and then he's also a commercial real estate agent. So Bob's got some wonderful things to share with us. It's the 7:30 break, and then 8 o'clock is Bill Calderera from Ulster Savings Bank. Bill is
President and CEO.
President and CEO. He's also an underwriter here at Kingston Community Radio, one of our longest underwriters, Ulster
Also
Savings.
another big community supporter.
Oh, God, yeah. When does
Great
Ulster
man.
Savings not give money to anybody in the community?
true.
And then I'll let you talk about our 8:30 guest because that's the someone that you
it,
brought
and
in.
and I'll speak about it in more detail, but we're really lucky to have Elizabeth Camoni Mills, who was one of the first assistant district attorneys I hired when I was DA. She's a great lady. She's now the head of what we used to call the Domestic Violence Task Force. It has another title. And she's bringing with her Cassandra Seifert, who's the head of that program.
Oh, so there's two of them coming.
There are going to be two
great.
coming. Yeah, they're good. Both good people. Can't wait to see them. Haven't seen them in a while.
The one you hired as when you were district attorney.
Elizabeth
Okay.
Camoni Mills,
Yes,
who just is a great trial lawyer, good lady, married to a Kingston police officer. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. We'll find out when
curse,
Liz
you can
is
say
here.
whatever you want.
I don't curse.
I know you don't.
I never
I'm
curse,
playing with you.
except for hell once in a while.
Hell's okay.
So we take a break down, Dan, soon? When does that happen?
That happens right now. Dan, take us to break.
Don Williams and Lawrence Maxwell for starting us out right now up till 7:30 a.m. And you're listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio on AM 920 and 92.5 FM. My name is Dan Gatus, and it is Thursday, February 3rd, and 37 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Are you a renter or homeowner having trouble paying past due electric and gas bills? The Regular Arrears Supplement Program may help. If you're eligible for the program, you could receive up to $10,000 in aid. If you're behind in rent payments, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program may also help. Get the relief you need to help pay off those bills. Visit the Assistance Programs section of centralhudson.com for eligibility and application requirements.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And you're here with us at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. 37 degrees on this Thursday, February 3rd. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union. 1099 Morton Boulevard in Kingston is the main office. Cloudy with periods of rain today with a high of 43, 100% chance of rain. As we know already, we get wet when we go outside. And tonight, cloudy with rain. Rain may freeze on some surfaces overnight, and potential for significant icing. Low of 26 tonight, so it's very likely it's freezing rain. Friday, 28 degrees is the high, and still 100% chance of precipitation. Some snow showers in the afternoon possible, and Friday night, mostly cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy after midnight with a low of 7. Okay, and we're just about to go back. Okay, I'll make you a coffee, Dawn.
What a professional I am, Dan. As you were about to come back on radio, I'm about to walk out and get some coffee. So
I'll make you a coffee. What do you take?
We're here today. This is Donald Williams, co-host. How do I call the co-owner? The owner, a co-host, but hosting, and I'm the co-host, is Lawrence Maxwell, who just stepped out. We have our first guest of the morning, and I was really happy to see when I learned who the potential guests were today that it's Bob Baum. And I was happy because I know Bob, known him quite some time, know his lovely wife, and happened to run into the two of you guys.
Well, thank you.
So how are you doing, and what's going on in the commercial business?
Well, let's lead off and just say that January was the best January in 9 years.
Really? With everything that people are talking about with COVID and the lack of money and inflation?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Can you explain?
Well, I really don't have any answers for that. Just the general tenor of the marketplace is very strong. In
is
the
it
marketplace,
just in this community or throughout
No,
the state?
it's actually nationwide.
Okay.
There's microcosms in every effort. You know, there's always somebody who's down and somebody who's way up top, and that sort of thing does happen. But there's a lot of cash and a lot of people moving in the area.
Ulster County residentially,
Yeah.
the prices have gone sky high because of many people from New York City
Right.
moving north. But I didn't. You do strictly commercial.
Strictly commercial. Yeah, I
had the same impact.
Yeah, it has a similar impact, but commercial real estate's a different animal. I mean, residential is houses is,
right.
You know, it is. You know, it's dealt from the heart. You want something, your dream home and all of that. Business real estate is somewhat similar. People want to live out their dreams and build a nice business.
Small businesses.
Right. And then there's commercial real estate that has income, that we determine what a net asset is to an individual such as you. Don Williams, you want to buy a property for $2 million or whatever it is, and you want to see a rate of return, something more than what the banks are getting to lend money.
If you take that risk with your hard-earned cash, you want to have at least, there are no guarantees.
You got to be careful not to deal with your heart in commercial. You've got to deal with the numbers.
Okay.
And I am a numbers guy, so that's what I like to do.
And you can sit down with people that have an interest in investing in some type of commercial property and lay those numbers out for them. How do you do that, Bob? What do you? I don't want to have you give away.
No, there's no
secrets.
There's no secrets. It's an analysis of the actual costs of having that property, which diminish a return, and what you have left over in your right pocket after your left pocket pays for all the bills. That's the number that you want to see that justifies the expense of carrying that real estate
for a lengthy period of time. And I can understand taking a look at the expense when you have to take into consideration all the variables, taxes,
right,
all of those things. But how do you determine, how can you project what income that property is going to give?
Well, yeah, you get up into an area that we call the future value of money, what you spend today and what that future value is or could be or really works out financially to be. There are
do you get to look at if it's a prior business you're buying, do you get to look at the books of the businesses?
Well, yeah, you would. I don't do really any of that sort of thing. I don't sell businesses. I did for a number of years before going full-time into real estate.
Okay.
I did 7 years of doing business sales. But that's a whole different animal, and I don't care for it.
And what part do you deal with within that commercial industry big category?
Well, it could be local property, a warehouse. It could be a building like the one we're in right now that has multiple tenants and they pay rents.
Okay.
So there's the higher value of some of these properties than a property that is vacant. Then that's for somebody to come in and do something else. Maybe redevelop a building like one of the old sewing factories in town.
Okay.
They've become apartmentized.
I was born and raised about an eighth of a block away from a place that was a shirt factory.
Right.
Now is a parking lot, unfortunately.
I used to come up to Kingston to buy my shirts at the Gant Shirt Factory on
Cornell
Street.
Gant was Cornell Street. I've forgotten the name of it was on Crown Street. You had my home, my folks and my grandparents' home.
Right.
Number 7 school, and then immediately adjacent to number 7 school was a brick building that initially was a shirt factory. And apparently it was before Gant, I believe.
Could have been, yeah.
But it was apparently high-end shirts that were being produced. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was a kid. I didn't want to wear a shirt for.
Yeah, well, my first job was in an alumni shop of a large department store in Dayton, Ohio. And the alumni shop had the button-down collars. And
Still wear them? Still wear them?
and the nice ties and all of that sort of thing. And I got introduced to Gant shirts. And back then, Arrow was the leading manufacturer, and their shirts were, I think, $2. I mean, I'm going to 1961 here. And
$2 a shirt, and
and
Gant shirts are good.
And the Gant shirts were $5.95.
Oh, well, you can't pay that. That's ridiculous.
Right. So as an employee of the department store, I got a 20% discount. So I got introduced to Gant shirts. And
incredible.
Went away to college, and
I wasn't wearing a lot of Gant shirts when I was going through college and law school, Bob. It was basically whatever I could find at discount beverage.
Yeah.
So you were saying that there's some properties that you wanted to talk about.
Well, yeah, just a tenor. I've been working with a number of different clients. One of them has revitalized the Rondout Plaza down at the corner of Murray and 9W on the Strand. It's a difficult plaza to get people interested in, but I was lucky enough to find some investors who wanted to reinvigorate the laundromat there.
You must be a magician, because that was always a difficult property.
And
there.
we have 3 spaces left, but it looks like 2 more are going to be taken in the next week. So we're going to be left with 1 vacancy. But
any ideas what the businesses are, or are you permitted to see? You don't have to name them, but
no.
the type
Well,
of business?
we aren't certain, so I can't really discuss that. We aren't under contract with anyone yet, but it looks good. But the laundromat is having a soft opening this week after putting in a couple of $100,000 into the equipment and everything else.
But that's a good location for a laundromat.
Right.
There are many people that live in that area that need access to a laundromat.
And they're knocking on the door waiting for them to open, so it's good.
good.
And I introduced them to the Chamber of Commerce. They're going to have a little ribbon cutting on the 15th, the grand opening, and that's
great.
a nice
Well, congratulations for you and the new store owners. That's great.
Yeah, new business. And
it needed work. It's good to see they're putting money into it, too.
Yeah, they scraped it to bare walls and started over. And that's really what has to happen. But I have a number of properties, commercial properties up in Saugerties, 10,000 square feet in a warehouse. I've got 5,000 square feet in another building that has an apartment on church land. 4,500 square feet in Saugerties Plaza, and I got 2,600 square feet plus 10,000 more square feet at Twin Maples Plaza to lease out.
That's great. Congratulations, Bob. It sounds like you're buying the next drink when we go to Menards.
Well, that goes without saying.
Oh, come on, don't say that. Look, and I know that the former district attorney before me, I will not mention Mike Kavanaugh's name, had a reputation of not exactly spreading the wealth, but I am generous when we're out.
Yes.
Am I not a generous tipper, Dan? Come to my defense.
I think he
one of the
fell asleep.
best. One of the best.
He did. Well, listening to me talk has
I'm
a
listening.
tendency. Thank you, Dan. Anyway, go ahead, Bob.
But back to, you asked me the scope of what I do. Really not limited. I have clients. My daughter is #1 commercial real estate broker for RE/MAX in the state of New Mexico.
I'm reading, now I know you for a long time.
Yeah.
But to try to prepare for this morning, since I haven't had you on as a guest, I started reading some of the stuff in LinkedIn or wherever it was,
Right.
and I saw a connection to New Mexico.
Right.
You have a broker license in New Mexico, apparently.
No, I don't. We have, my daughter is the broker at RE/MAX, and she has some clients that came out of New York City to Albuquerque, and now we work together to take care of some of this business.
How great is that to be able to work with your daughter?
Yeah.
Same profession. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and she's a strong input in Albuquerque in particular. But we cover a broad scope. We have businesses, buildings and property that's available through our brokerage network nationwide in North Carolina, in Florida, and places of that nature.
What's the title of the brokerage network, and what is the title of your business that you own?
I am strictly my name, Robert G. Baum.
Just so I'm giving you the opportunity to get that out to the public.
Yeah. It's my website is rgbaum.com, and you can go search for any kind of a property, give me a call, and we all make money.
There you go. You know something, that is, and it is a good slogan. And when you work hard, and I know you work hard, people that work hard have to be rewarded in some fashion. Really, it's what our nation was built on.
That's right. And sometimes perseverance has to be at the forefront of that effort, because you don't make a home run every time at bat.
No. You know, Bob, my mom, who has passed many years ago, did part-time real estate, working for my aunt, Mary Scafidi, who was truly a trailblazer as a woman in a tough industry of real estate. But I know how hard my mom worked, taking clients out to see homes, paying for their dinners, and many times, most of the time, it wouldn't reach fruition. So you have to persevere.
Right. Oh, I think the conversion rate, if you're lucky, is maybe 3 out of 50.
3 out of 50.
You know, yeah, I'm guessing. It's you talk to a lot of people, and sometimes that conversion doesn't happen. There's a blank period of time. If you made the right impression on someone a couple of years down the road, they call you and say, "I hadn't forgotten you," and that's always very ingratiating. It's nice to know.
Yeah. Oh, and word of mouth, in my opinion, is always the highest form of running.
And sometimes we have to develop our own word of mouth. We have to get out in the streets, knock on doors, and put our face in front of people. And oh yeah, I forgot about you. You're that broker. You know.
That's fantastic. And most people warmly receive. I was surprised when I ran for judge that and DA, I'd got out and knocked on doors, and I never wanted to do that because I hate the idea of politics. Love the idea of elections, hate politics. And I never wanted to invade the privacy of people's homes.
Right.
Yet when you knocked on their door, and especially when I ran for judge, I said, Don Williams, I'm the former district attorney, the people were actually pleased that I took the time to go and speak to them and show that their vote was significant. And it astounded me. I did have some people, I can't repeat exactly what they did say, asked me in a very personal matter to get off their porch.
Mm-hmm.
There was an adjective to the porch that I will not add, but most people so warmly received and appreciated that you're taking the time to go there. If you treat people well, especially in business, then maybe, as you say, you don't get success immediately, but it returns thereafter.
Well, I will say, this is a digression in some respects, but I've had a lot of training, formal and informal training on selling. And I have learned over the years that sometimes you hit the home run the first time you speak with someone. That's a rarity. And what I have learned is that you need to get your face in front of people at least 3 times and you have to come back on a regular basis.
Okay.
And when they get to see you a few times, you're not just passing through town with a carpetbagger, that kind of thing.
Can you pretty much read from the outset which people you have the real shot for? Which
at the outset sometimes, okay. But sometimes it takes a bit of conversation to cut through the resistance level and make sure that somebody knows you're not there to ask for money, you're not there to ask for a donation, you're not, it's. I'm here to...
Or you're not there to execute an arrest warrant. That would happen occasionally.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I enjoy that aspect of getting out. So I hit the road all the time. I'm always on the road and knocking on doors. One of my favorite things to do around town over the past several years is to drive out in the summertime or even in the winter, but drive through town through the city, the village, whatever, early in the morning, 6 o'clock. Drive through and look at the storefronts.
Oh.
See which ones have changed. Is there another piece of paper in the window? Is somebody boarding up a place because maybe something happened there? So, you take a look and you get a tenor of what's going on when the people start to come to work. The other thing I learned is when I deal with areas outside of Kingston, go to Coxsackie or Catskill or someplace else, I love to go up in the early morning and find a local diner that has some pickup trucks at it. And if you want to find out what's going on in the community, find the one where there's a bunch of, and I can say this term because I am, there's a bunch of old guys and they're eating. And they know what's going on in the world.
Especially diners. That's got to be a great place.
And so you sit down in the middle of them and say hello, and the next thing you know, you find out something. Oh, yeah, my friend John wants to sell this or this, that kind of thing.
That's smart. That's a good. That's good.
But, yeah.
It's basic common sense. It's bright. It takes hard work. So
it takes perseverance. That's the number one you need in this business, in real estate.
I have to be honest, that is a word, and maybe it's the new environment in our culture, country, it's a word that you don't hear ever anymore is perseverance.
Yeah.
So, the other word you don't hear anymore is humility.
Sometimes you hear payback.
And you can complete that sentence, which I'm also not permitted to do.
Right.
Now, I've had a lot of payback in my life. But what doesn't, I love that saying. These old sayings, whoever figures these things out, what is it? What doesn't kill me makes me stronger?
Yeah. Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Such. My other favorite is many a truth is said in jest. Did you ever hear that?
I have.
Yeah.
Who figures these things out?
I think they just come off. I think they come off the top.
I know many
of
of
the
those
head.
also.
They come off the top of the head at some point, and then somebody says, "I like that," and they repeat it.
Right, and then it goes on.
It goes on from there.
My father used to say 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Like,
yeah, I used to say.
Yeah,
that.
he used to drive me crazy, but he was right. Why are you going this way, Dad? Well, what's it matter? 6 in one, half a dozen.
Well, flip a penny in the air 100 times, it's going to be 50.
You're right.
Heads and 50 tails.
Maybe we old folk, and Lawrence, you're not old, and we're not old.
No, we're not.
We're older than Lawrence.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of how you.
We can hold that over his head.
Yeah, well, you can, but it's all how you feel. That's what I think.
Oh, then I'm in deep trouble.
Okay, let me retract that statement.
So, Bob, what else is happening commercially? So there's a lot of people are coming up from the city. Are they coming from different areas?
We're coming from many different areas. We're seeing people from California, from Nevada, from...
Well, I can understand why a lot of people want to get out of California right now.
Well, if you look around, you see the number of California plates that are here that weren't here 4 years ago.
And what is it specifically? How does somebody coming from California...
I wish
or New
I knew.
Mexico-
I was born in California. I'm a Californian. I lived there for many years. My family is out there, a lot of them. We're spread all over the country. But I got here because I got transferred in my aircraft industry I was in, and I got transferred out here.
Transfers. My dad was an IBM.
I figured I'd be here for a
Understand
couple of
transfers.
years in 1973, and I'm still here.
But you just wonder. I mean, I know many of the people from New York City are moving here permanently now because they would have summer homes or
Right.
they would visit here, and word gets out. But right now, the city of Kingston has almost turned into Brooklyn North.
Well, it has. It really has.
It's Brooklyn.
It isn't
not
almost.
just
It is.
New York City. It's
Right.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So what happens? Is it that are there close-knit communities in Brooklyn, as big as that is, and somebody discovered Kingston and they say this is a great place, which it is?
Well, yeah, I think that's partly it, and partly there have been a couple of pieces in the New York Times with regard to Kingston that seemed to be a spearheaded effect.
There have been. You're correct. I remember the New Yorker magazine had Kingston one of the top 10 places to visit in the fall in the world.
Yeah.
World.
I was
one place
amazed
was
at
Dubai,
that.
I think, was number 3,
Yeah.
and Kingston was number 1 or 2.
Well, I have a client now who I work with, and they came out of the city, relatively newly married. They visited up here, and the wife was, I guess she grew up somewhere up in the Hudson Valley, and the young man, her husband, he was from Long Island and New York City, and they lived in the city in a nice apartment and all of that, and they came up here, and 2 weeks later, he bought a house.
There's something.
He didn't come here to buy a house. He just...
The charm of this area.
Yeah.
And also the charm of the people. One thing I have noticed that is a bit of a concern with me, I live 5 blocks from here on Mountain View Avenue.
Right.
Shouldn't really say that, but the Freeman had it on the front page of the paper when I sentenced many gang members, so it doesn't matter.
Right, yeah.
But I walk frequently, and I notice there's a change that when I see people in this general neighborhood, I look to make eye contact, to say good morning or
Right.
how are you, and people are reluctant to make eye contact.
Right.
And I guess that is, if you make eye contact in New York City, that is problematic, I guess.
And it's also there's too many people. too many people to encounter as you're walking down, Fifth Avenue or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just too many people.
Yeah, overwhelmed with people.
It's overwhelming.
And everybody's in a rush to get somewhere.
They'll get it. It's true. You can tell the locals that have been here for years over against the new people that are coming in.
One of the things
you can
I've
tell
noticed,
a little bit, but they'll get it.
My
They'll
office
get it.
is uptown on St. James Street, and I'm on a second floor, so I can look out. And I've noticed the younger people, husbands, wives, partners, whatever, with their dogs, the numbers have increased tremendously over the last 2 years.
Absolutely.
To be honest with you, 3 years ago, the dog walkers had pit bulls. Now they have nice dogs. I
kind of like pit bulls as long as they are maintained properly, but yes.
Designer dogs, huh?
You see a lot of, I was going to say foo-foo dogs, but
I don't know so much.
Designer dog. Look, I have a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel that I love.
Well, I can imagine. I would too.
I guess you would have to say that's a designer dog. Yeah, but now I don't recognize the names. I guess if you take two designer dogs and breed them, then you get the perfect new designer dog. But
we call it the Kingston dog.
Is it King? Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's okay. We're all mutts here.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we definitely. And
bet.
in case we deviate from that, we have a lot of people that can remind us. Is
very true.
Perseverance. I can hook back to that theme. The people I see, and you know something, you're right. It's young people. Young couples that initially that I try to get eye contact and I'm not getting a response, I persevere.
Right.
And after the second or third time,
here we are back to the
third time.
It's
third time.
Yeah.
Then I'm getting a response. And it's just such a much more pleasant way to live when you do not have fear of the people that are walking down the street opposite you.
Right.
Or it's not so busy that you can't take the time to say good morning to somebody. That, to me, is part of the charm of this area.
I think so. Absolutely.
Now, there were times when I was district attorney and judge, and I would go out of my way to greet somebody, and they would say, "No, I know you, Judge." And then I go, "Oh, God." Or I would see people somewhere, and I'd say, "You look very familiar." And the response was, no, it wasn't me. They don't. Anyway, but it's a different environment. It truly is.
Yeah.
And hopefully, as the new people, which have brought so much to the community, and I'm not just talking about wealth that they brought to the community.
Right.
They've brought so much from New York City that we simply did not have.
True. Well, look at the development that's happening in Midtown, Kingston now. And it's coming. We're closing. Winston Churchill wrote a famous book called "Closing the Ring."
One of my favorite all-time people.
But that's what's happened here. We had the ring that started up here, uptown. It got boosted out to the malls, and that's sort of died out now. And then the Strand, which when I first came here had boarded up buildings, and you could buy one for $10,000. That's developed. And the only place to go is squeezes uptown from the Strand up and from the city core down. And now we're seeing new businesses on Broadway, and it's going to work out.
Now, the problem is, Bob, and now I'm going to wax poetically and philosophically.
No, go ahead. We have 1 minute.
Wax politically and philosophically. And you'll see the softer side of the former tough DA and judge.
Uh-huh.
The problem is when we have those gentrifications, I hate that term, but when we have these areas being built, we can't just keep moving the struggling people in that area to another area.
You're absolutely
right. To another community. That's got to be addressed also, and I'm not sure how to address it.
It's been part of the development program
Good.
It really has been from City Hall and, from our aldermen.
Good. That's I hope that
very
works.
Serious integration between those who are established there and those who are moving in.
Because as the prices go up,
there's a
and
huge
the
amount of talk with that.
Taxes go up. You can't just push people out.
Yeah.
No.
It's intended not to be gentrification.
That's fantastic. I mean, I like the idea of gentrification, but not that negative aspect.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to happen that way.
It doesn't if it takes hard work and it
true.
takes foresight and planning. So great. Well, we just cured all the ills of the community this morning.
We did. For the first half hour, you guys did a tremendous job while I was answering phones and doing some damage
I
control.
know, you worked up a sweat.
I did.
I'm going to grab my coffee now.
Go ahead and grab your coffee. Bob, thank you for coming in. I know
Thank
it
you
was
for
short
having
notice.
me.
I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
We'll get you on again next month. We'll be back at the 8 o'clock hour. I just looked in the folder. There's actually no birthdays today. But we'll be back at the next segment with Bill Calderera from Ulster Savings.
Thank you. Robert Baum. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Robert Baum in person. And thank you for being with us today. And we've got our 8 o'clock break right now. Lawrence Maxwell and Don Williams has been our hosts today, and you're listening to Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. Thursday, February 3rd, and 38 degrees right now here in Uptown Kingston. We'll be right back after these messages.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dina Roy from Hurley, and I support the Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
And you're here with us at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. And this upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio, this last portion of Kingston Community Radio, of course, was brought to you by Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, 1099 Morton Boulevard in Kingston, their main office. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Rondout Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, one near you. Cloudy with, obviously, periods of rain today. Chance of rain, of course, is 100% today. And we have a high of 43. Cloudy with rain tonight, and rain likely to freeze on some surfaces overnight. Potential for significant icing. A low of 26. Friday, a wintry mix in the morning, transitioning to some snow showers in the afternoon. Some icing possible, a high of 28 on Friday. And Friday night, mostly cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy after midnight, a low of 7. Goes down to 7 then. High on Saturday is 25 degrees, and it'll be partly cloudy skies, partly sunny skies. And Saturday night, clear skies, and it goes down to -1 degree on Saturday night. And without further ado, let's get back to the on-air studio with Lawrence Maxwell, Don Williams, and Bill Calderera.
Okay, thank you, Dan. So before we introduce our next guest, I want to just mention something real quick. A longtime listener had passed away. I don't know if it was a couple days ago. Oh, there you go. This guy's never done working, Bob. I tell you, he's never done work.
Perseverance.
Perseverance, yes. So just before we introduce our next guest, who's also an underwriter, Betty Decker, a longtime listener from Saugerties, had passed. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before.
Sounds very familiar.
95 years old from Saugerties. She was a average listener. I mean, listened all the time. Avid listener. Always sent money in every month. Happy Christmas Fund. She'd be one of the first persons, first people to send a check.
Was she at the fundraiser that was at Boyce's?
No, not this year. She wasn't. No, the people that came in when you were on. That was. Marianne and William Banks, I believe. They come in. They always come in. They're like the first people that come in the morning every year.
Is Mrs. Decker?
Because you were on at like 9 a.m. this year, right?
I don't recall.
No, Mrs. Decker is 95 years old, and God bless her soul. And
is she survived by family locally?
I'm not sure, but my mother texted me this, and she wanted me to mention it on the air. So, our condolences to Betty Decker's family. She was 95 years. That's what I just said to Bill. I'm like,
I'm hoping to make 70, for God's sakes.
But anyway, our condolences to the Decker family from Saugerties. God bless.
Absolutely.
So, we have no birthdays today. Normally, 8 o'clock, we would be shooting off birthdays, but it looks like there's nobody is on a birthday today.
Oh, my God, no cow pie.
Yesterday, we had like 4 or 5.
Sounds like I might get a cow pie now.
You're going to have to submit your name. But you're going to have to do it under a fake name.
Coming up, March 27th.
Is it really?
Don't want to say what age I'll be.
On the 31st, March 31st.
Leader of men, Bill. That's what people tell us.
Write all this down.
Aries.
Introduce our next guest while I write down your birthdays.
We're lucky to have a returning guest.
327?
You want me to introduce Bill, or would you prefer? You know something? When I wore robes, no one dared to interrupt me, Bill. Now?
Well, that's different here.
I know that.
Well, hey, where's your robe?
Did they let you take that home?
I sleep in it every night. What do you mean, What do you mean they let me?
You should have been a comedian. I mean, I know you did 40 years in the.
Trust me, when I was on the bench, no one saw me as. Although I have heard when the prospective jurors came in. But Bill, did you ever come for a jury selection when I was on the bench?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
But the jurors would say afterwards to Paul O'Neill, the commissioners, that they would please thank Judge Williams for making us feel comfortable, even on the worst cases. He would, and it was always self-defacing humor. I was going to say self-defecating humor. That is not what I meant.
Definitely don't want.
God, although the two of them do mean the same.
But we don't want to defecate here because I'm going to be the one that cleans it up. So let's not do that. Okay.
Anyway, let's skipping that. We're real lucky to have a gentleman, and the audience is saying, "Thank God we have a gentleman." Bill Calderera is here, who's the CEO and president of Ulster Savings, and I know Bill fairly well from the past. Also, you've been a guest before many times.
Many times. I always enjoy it.
And thank you so much for coming, Bill, especially in person. It's great. I told Bill when I went out to get a coffee, and he was in the green. Can we call that the green room?
It is. It is blue, though. This color was supposed to go in there. This is a little more greener. And if you, it's
seafoam.
It's called.
What did you write? Time out. Well, no, my wife, my past wife, deceased wife, was an interior decorator. What color did you call the room?
Oh, seafoam.
Man, oh man, oh how good is that? Because that is seafoam. Man, 24 years of marriage, and I learned one paint color, seafoam. One. Anyway, but Bill is. I saw Bill outside, and I said, Bill, I've been a client of Ulster Savings for years. I was born and raised a block away from it. I knew Mr. St. John well. He helped me get elected as DA the first time.
Probably knew Cliff Miller pretty well.
I knew Cliff Miller well. I did. That's what you are. You are worse than Marmo. Anyway, no, I knew Cliff well, and Cliff did many good things to the community.
Oh, of course.
But I didn't realize. I know there's great history. So this morning at about 5:30, I looked up the history, know you were coming in, so I could ask some intelligent questions. The history at Ulster Savings is incredible. It's unbelievable. I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't prep you for this. Could you? I'm sure people have asked before. Are you willing to talk a little bit about the history? It's
sure,
unbelievable.
So yeah, it's an amazing history. I mean, the bank was founded in 1851.
1851. That's amazing. And
it's 170 years old. We've been on the current building where our branch is on Wall Street. We've had that single location since 1871.
I had no idea because I saw the picture from 1851. It didn't look this.
Yeah.
That building was
there in
done in the 1800s.
The branch has been there since the Wall Street. Yep, the Wall Street branch has been there since 1871. So there's a lot of history, which is one of the reasons if you go by it now, we worked with the Historical Society and we put up pictures across our front window of other historic buildings in Kingston and some of the history of Kingston. Sojourn Truth is up there, and actually the courthouse with its history is a picture of it, and our building, and it's little pieces there. Yeah,
1851 that's quite some time.
That's almost like walking by a museum, Bill.
Yeah.
It's really extraordinary research and work done by Friends of Historic Kingston and Steve Blauweiss.
Right.
Amazing. It's like being in a museum. Just
know,
walking past that panel.
And when I was ADA, DA, and judge, I would go across the street all the time. Since retirement, I go to the drive-in, the
Schweig Drive, yeah.
That's what we all do now.
And I miss so much the wonderful tellers and employees inside of that bank on Wall Street. I have to go back. The problem is when I go there, I park and I reminisce about. I miss being on the bench.
Right.
But I'm going to go back and go inside now, especially because of what you've done there. I haven't seen it. Yeah. It's great.
No, it's spectacular. And you mentioned employees. I am blessed. I have just wonderful people that just make my job so much easier and make me look good. But they really are there for everybody within the community,
incredible.
All of our customers.
It's what community
it's amazing.
Banking is all about. And
right. Well, you mentioned our history. So we've remained true to our original mission, which was is a mutual savings bank, which is different. We have no shareholders.
I was about to say, what exactly does that mean?
So a mutual is created. It's in many ways the ultimate form of philanthropy, if you think about it. So our owners put up their own capital with no expectation of getting the capital back or any return on the capital because they felt the need for an institution within their community to help it grow and help the people within the community. So we're founded, and our sole purpose is to serve our customers in the community. There are no shareholders, and so we really take that and have made it part of our DNA for all 170 years, but we really truly still believe that today. We treat our customer, but I serve one master, and I have been a public bank CEO, and as you know,
I did
legally
see the history.
How many years have you been with Ulster Savings?
It's 5.5 years.
Okay.
So 5.5 years this month. I joined them in the end of June of 16. So, but your fiduciary duties as a public company CEO is first and foremost to your shareholders. And actually, what people know is everybody in the company's first and foremost duties, board of directors, every employee.
I knew the board of directors, employees
would
also.
truly be to serve their shareholders first. So by definition, the customer is at least number two, if not further down the list. That's why I do sometimes look when people say, well, they only care about their shareholders. That's their legal obligation. To change that, we have to change the laws a little bit. But here we serve one master, we serve our customers, and then we treat our community in the form of giving out some of our profits every year back into the community. We formed a foundation, a charitable foundation back in 2000. Since the forming of that foundation, we're close to $15 million that we've given back out into the local community to local nonprofits.
Radio is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, there are businesses, for lack of a better term. Yours is definitely one. Herzog's, that just gives so much to the community. And I believe, Bill, years ago, there was a young lady by the name of Karen Zentner, and I think that Ulster Savings Bank, it may have happened before you, but had so much to do to start a scholarship on at Ulster County Community College. She was killed when a 52-pound boulder was dropped over and over.
That's right.
Yes.
And I was a young assistant, tried
That was on the
those
thruway?
cases on the thruway. But I believe Ulster Savings was one of the institutions, community-based institutions, that stepped up to create that scholarship fund. And whenever I look somewhere about what a business or people are doing in the community, I see repeatedly Ulster Savings, Herzogs. It's amazing. So you should be very proud of that.
We're a great community. We're blessed within our community. Have a lot of local, organizations that really do care about their communities and give back. And we're just proud to be one of them. It really is. It's important to us. As I said, we really do.
And leadership, the people that work with you, not for you. Mm-hmm. I learned that years ago, that work with you. It starts at the top. Every time you come in here, you have that smile on your face. You're a good, happy person that cares about others. And the reason I say that, I'm not running for office. I've had enough. That's not the purpose. But it's nice to get a pat on the back when you are the leader and you set examples. But the people that work, the tellers, every time I went into that, to bounce a check, no, to pass a check. No, I never bounced a check. I would walk in and I would feel so special. And there were times that then I would leave and say, yeah, they're treating you special because you're the district attorney or the county judge. But I would hear them treat the next customer exactly the same. And so much so, I remember there was a young African-American lady that worked as a teller, and she left to go, I think, down to Texas. But
Yes.
they had a celebration for her.
Mhm.
And all of the tellers kept saying, it'd really be nice if you would come out. I have to go to so many things all the time, but I showed up. They didn't expect it. I was so warmly received, and even more warmly received when I bought a round. But you set a great example for all of the people that work there, and you should occasionally take credit for it.
Oh, thank you.
Not by marketing yourself or tooting your own horn, but you should take credit for it. They're good people.
We have good people, and that is part of our. We are led by a really strong core values system at the bank, and we state them in the words of beliefs. And one of them is to have a workplace. We believe in having a workplace we can all brag about, and that's truly how we feel. And as you mentioned, we call each other colleagues. That's how we treat
You work
each other.
with
So,
them,
Good. Now, before you came on the air, we were sitting here and we were talking about. Did you say you guys received 2 grants or 2?
No, so we were very fortunate. We were at a Bankroll conference in early January, and Banker Northeast Magazine does a piece where they do surveys and pieces, and Ulster Savings was honored to receive 2 different awards. So we received the 2020 Award for Community Hero Award for philanthropy within the market, and also a Community Hero Award for inspiration, and that was over 170 acts of kindness that they felt that was the most inspirational to do something different.
Could you give us some of the, do you recall some of the acts
Sure.
specifically?
So some we can talk about. Some
you have 7 minutes to list all 100.
No, I'm not going to go through them. So we did a number of different things with it, and it came out of discussion with their employees, and we wanted to get everybody involved. So it was 170th anniversary. We couldn't really just say, we're going to give out an amount of money, because we would actually, in most cases, be giving out less, because we give out more than $500,000, almost $700,000 a year from our pieces. So we decided to try something different and do a random act of kindness. And so our employees came up with ideas. We worked with some of our customers to come up with ideas. So, for example, one of our customers we went to, and I was actually, still feeling effects of the pandemic, told us that there were 17 of his customers that just could not afford their service anymore, and was going to have to drop the service because they were behind on their bills. And it was somewhat of an essential service for some of these people. And so the next billing cycle, they got a bill. Their bill just said, your bill's been taken care of by Ulster Savings.
Wow.
How nice is that? How nice is
great.
Right. We did haircuts for. We worked with local barbers, and people that came in that day got free haircuts, or We did with one of our local flower shops of Dutchess and
Yeah,
veterans.
That's great. I mean, just to have that. I mean, the look on their face must have been like absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then many of our employees walked around with either gift cards or different pieces, and those are the ones that we couldn't promote, but they would be in a shopping center or shopping, and they'd see somebody at the supermarket taking stuff back out of their cart, because they couldn't afford to buy those items, and they would just walk up and hand them a gift card and say, the groceries are on us.
Something I've done that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
When you see people struggling and they're online, and then you see them putting things back because they can't afford it, and simple things like that go a long way.
So it was a serious thing up at the Snowflake Festival. We were walking around and gave out gift cards to some families and things like that. So it was we did lunches for a number of businesses over the entire time working. So it really just became a lot of fun. Our employees really they enjoyed it as much or more. Just coming up with the ideas and trying to find ways to do different
It is amazing.
things,
And, a simple thing like that. Now, you get overwhelmed with the day-to-day activities of managing a big place like Ulster Savings or anything, and you forget. You take some time, and you're not only giving to people that truly need, the individuals who had their bills paid that were essential bills, people that you're helping in the grocery, but as you said, what it's doing, it's building this wonderful feeling within your employees themselves.
Yeah, what better joy?
Yeah,
what better joy?
There really is.
How can you just, that is just one of the most beautiful things, is to give a gift card to somebody randomly during a festival.
It is. And it makes everybody feel better.
Absolutely.
It truly does.
Bill, that is one of the most ingenious giving projects that I've ever heard of. And thanks for reiterating it, too, because we know a little bit about it, but thank you.
Well, our hope always was that it would kind of be paid forward, right? That if we put that into the community, that our organizations would do it. And just recently at the Chamber luncheon, we did.
You hosted, I saw.
We hosted, and we sponsored 3 other businesses to create their program for random acts of kindness, and we're going to help them fund those just to get them started. So we're hoping it kind of just takes off.
Oh, so you're trying to
just take it and make it a thing within the county. So
and it's not like you have to have a selling point for that, but I think the most compelling is not just the philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are going to do it, some people aren't, but just there is no greater feeling than when you do something not expecting some benefit back,
right?
And it makes other people that are less privileged feel that much better, and it builds the network of your business. It's incredible. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We enjoyed that one, and we're going to keep that going a little bit because we enjoyed it so much.
So the Chamber, I have not been to a Chamber's breakfast since I spoke, which was I think DA, my first year as DA. Who spoke at this breakfast?
So Congressman Delgado was the speaker, which was nice.
I take it he didn't talk about the gerrymandering that I just read about.
I think that happened a couple of days later when the map was finally introduced. But no, he really talked a lot about what he's been able to do down in Washington, accomplish and working, and he has he's number 4, I guess, and reaching across the aisle, which is
quite a good speaker.
Yeah, very good speaker.
Married to a young lady that when I was an assistant DA, she was part of the Kingston High School mock trial team that I would come in occasionally and coach. And what a bright young lady she is too. They're good people. Good people. So now, when you host it, what does that mean? What do you have to do?
We've been involved, obviously, with the Chamber for a lot of years.
Probably since 1851.
Well, I don't know if the Chamber was around back then, but so we're very involved. One of the corporate leaders for the organization. So we do a number of things with them, and as you're hosting that time, you get a little opportunity to go up and talk a little bit about. So I had a little video that we were able to show about the bank. It had some of the things, great. Kindness, some of the things that we've done. Some very brief pieces about our history, and then we went up and we announced that we were going to do continue with the acts of kindness because we had kicked it off there in That was the meeting where we kicked off
At
the
a Chamber's
concept
breakfast.
at the Chamber Breakfast of
How many
2021.
years ago- How long ago was that you kicked it off?
It was a year. So we did it. We did it in we started this in celebration of our 170th anniversary, which was the 2021 year. Actually, it'll go through April of this year, and then so that was we figured it was a great way to kind of wrap it up. To bring that that particular one to a close. But we liked it so much, we're not going to call it 171 acts of kindness. We're just going to keep some of the random act of kindness within our campaigns. And what we do for the community. So that was part of it. And then we also we have a new product that's coming out, which is called My Perks. It's part of our checking products.
What is that?
Powered by Bazing. So it's for our checking customers, it offers them certain benefits, things like they get the equivalent of what a AAA membership would be. So roadside assistance program, cell phone protection coverage, discounts on prescription drugs.
I'm certainly spending a lot of money on that.
Different pieces, all within our app, just by being a customer and its phone. And then the other thing for local vendors, there's an app on it where all of our local businesses can sign up on it. And when you're in the area, they'll pop up, and if they're offering any type of incentive to come in or different pieces, that'll show up on your phone for not just our customers. So ours is My Perks. We're powering it with a program called Bazing, which is a nationwide program.
Yeah.
So even people from out of the area that have the Bazing program, our local vendors will pop up every time they're in the area.
That's great.
So
it
it's a way to
encourages
promote
shopping
local businesses, and also giving some benefits to our customer base.
Whoever wrote now initially, I had a cousin by the name of Larry Williams, who was an employee at Ulster Savings well before you, that wrote the initial software.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone way past that. Your website, I use it all the time. It's so easy to use. It's quick, and I feel safe. What is it? What are you guys doing now? I'm going to get into IT stuff, which I know nothing, Bill. I'm sorry. What is it that makes, because I was about to mention other businesses have been broken into and identities taken.
Mm-hmm.
It's never happened at Ulster Savings. Is there something special you guys do?
Well, we take that extremely seriously, obviously, because we have our customers' trust. We take trust to keep their money safe, trust to keep their information safe. So we take a lot of precautions around that. We do a lot of different things with it. We have 24/7 monitoring.
Okay.
We do things many of the times, and there's only so much I can talk about on this because of the security issues. But I would tell you one of the things.
If you tell us, you'll have to kill me.
Yeah. But it's just something we focus on. We also focus quite a bit on informing our customers and keeping them educated. So we do a lot of things around fraud education. We do announcements when we hear of local frauds or local things happening to let them know. We do a whole campaign that, in conjunction with the American Bankers Association of, banks don't ask that. And we were sending regular information and posting things out to our website, and also sending communications to our customers saying, we're never going to ask you, we have your account numbers, we're never going to ask you for your account numbers. We're going to ask for certain information. Because unfortunately, sometimes the weakest link sits behind a keyboard, not in front. We can put the greatest security in place. If you give your password and sign on away to somebody else, it looks like you coming in. We can do some things, and we've caught frauds many times before our customers ever know it.
One thing I really appreciate is every time I log on,
mm-hmm.
when I log off, I get an email telling me there has been a recent log on. Was that you? That's incredible.
And you can set up, we have things where you can set up alerts every time your card is used, every time there's an access. So you can set up whatever amount you could. If you want to know that there's a $1 transaction on your account, you can set it up to $1. If you wanted it to only see if there's something over a certain dollar amount, you can get that, and it'll send you a text alert or an email to your phone or pieces. So that's a way you can also help self-monitor, right? Because before we do whether you were in a store making a purchase.
I do all my bill paying online, which is just a great thing, except I think you might be putting the United States Postal Service out of business. I have not had to buy a stamp for a long period of time, and it is just so enjoyable.
You do the bill pay thing. Yeah.
I do that
That's
bill
great.
pay thing.
Yeah.
And so Well, if it's a relatively local business, the bill is paid like within 24 hours.
Yeah, if that. And it makes life a lot easier, too. You
If they're in our network or they can accept ACH, it happens immediately. But we do. There are some that we have to mail, and we do.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's certain ones
I
where
know
they-
it-
I thought it would
Some
just
take
go automatically into their account. Like
most
a
of the time
direct
it
deposit.
does,
Oh, okay.
but depending on who you're paying and where they are and what their systems are, there are some vendors that just aren't set up to take that type of payment. So they still will go out, and it'll tell you usually that check has been mailed.
We have Dan is giving me the finger, which I'm not sure exactly what that meant.
That was my forefinger, okay?
The pointer. I'm sorry,
He's
the
giving
pointer
you the
finger.
pointer.
Because
Bill-
I have been greeted that way.
Well, I'm
Go
sure
ahead,
you
Mark.
have. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're wearing your robe to bed still, I mean.
Well, I gave that up, didn't I?
Yeah.
He's a big hit at Hartwarts parties.
You guys are good together. I should just.
Well, thanks. I'm sure, Lawrence, we have to.
Yeah, we do. We
about
have to go.
5 seconds.
Your two guests are in the lobby. Nice,
I'm
attractive
gonna go out and
women.
greet
They're
them.
very. I've
Great,
already had the
brilliant two people,
Already
too.
had the
Very lucky to
meet
have
them.
them.
They're very nice. Bill, thank you for coming in. Thank
Pleasure
you for
as
being a
always.
supporter of Kingston Community Radio. We'll see you back here again next month. And thank you for being such a helping out the community. And where would we be without Ulster Savings Bank in our
Sure.
community?
And Bill, personally, being a lifetime member of this community, thank you for coming here. and
Yes.
bringing what you brought.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're a gentleman. Good to see you.
Yep. Take care. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you. Bill Calderera, Ulster Savings Bank CEO. And Lawrence Maxwell and Don Williams are hosting today. And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Look through your children's eyes, and you will discover the true magic of a forest.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
What grows in the forest? Our imagination and our family bonds. The forest is closer than you think. Find a forest near you at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
To some, a baby's babbling doesn't mean much, but it does. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids. Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is George Post from Ulster Park, New York, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you. Where else can you speak to your local representatives on the air and have your questions answered? So thank you, and support KCR.
And you're with us at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ, and our live streaming on mykcr.org. Don't forget, the call-in number is 331-9255, 845-331-9255. And this upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Rondout Savings Bank. Always working for you and our community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. And again, just a little bit about the weather for the next 3 days. We've got cloudy with periods of rain all day here today. Chance of rain is 100%, of course, and the high is 43 degrees. And tonight, the low is 26 degrees, cloudy with rain. Rain will freeze in some surfaces and the potential for significant icing. So freezing rain is definitely a possibility tonight. And that's a low of 26. And Friday, a wintry mix in the morning, transitioning to some snow showers in the afternoon with a high of 28 degrees. There's a 100% chance of snow tomorrow during the day. And Friday night, mostly clear, mostly cloudy skies, then partly cloudy after midnight, a low of 7. And Saturday, partly cloudy skies with a high around 25 degrees. And Saturday night, a low of -1 with clear skies. And again, what we said is the upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park, and also online at rondoutbank.com. Equal housing lender, member FDIC. Now let's get back to the on-air studio with Don Williams.
Dan, I have one very significant question. So I don't have a Joe Biden moment, I should say President Biden moment. When you're talking, and this sign says on air, is this mic hot?
Oh, God, no. No, I have it turned off. I have it turned off.
Because occasionally I have been known to say things that perhaps should not be broadcast. But anyway, that's great.
Both the control room mic and the on-air studio mics will trigger that on-air light.
Okay.
But right now you're off. And whatever you want to say right now is not going to be broadcast. Yeah, see? Okay. I don't know what you said, but here comes.
Great. Thanks, Dan.
Now you're back.
This is Donald Williams, and I have two special guests for this next half hour. And what I will do initially is embarrass both of you by talking a little bit about how I know you. And I'm really happy to have the two of you on. I didn't know I was going to get the bonus of Cassandra. This is great. But the preliminarily, my guest is from the District Attorney's Office, Elizabeth Camoni Mills, who I hired when I was district attorney, a young, impressionable lawyer that I liked a great deal from the first time I met you. But I loved all the assistants. Some of them did make me pull the few remaining hairs out of my head. I will not mention Emmanuel's name more than once, and I love him. He was my chief assistant. But Liz, you were and are an incredible asset to Dave Clegg, the office, and this community. And I mean that with all sincerity. And I know as a judge, I could be occasionally tough to everyone, and I held prosecutors' feet to the fire because I was a prosecutor. And I think I never referred to you as Liz. I referred to you as Camoni.
Always.
Camoni, both. Not in front of the jury, but both in and out of court. Camoni. And it was Darahanassian. But I have such respect for you, for what you've done when I was DA and the times that you came into court prosecuting most generally child abuse cases or cases of domestic violence, which in my opinion are by far the most difficult cases for a prosecutor to go forward on. You were fearless. You were a fearless trial lawyer. I'm sure you still are. And I'm saying both when I was DA teaching you and then as a judge still teaching, but you were fearless. You would try anything. Prosecutors so frequently plea bargain cases that they're afraid to lose. Now, sometimes they plea bargain because the victim really doesn't want the ordeal of testifying about a horrible crime that has occurred to them. But there are often times, too, that I've seen for 40 years where prosecutors will work out the best plea bargain, not always to do justice, but to avoid the risk of losing, which is a fear all of us had. You never had that. Never. You were always fearless and tried quite well the most difficult cases. I was tough on you, which I'm tough on all was tough on all lawyers. I was very demanding because there's so much at stake for the victims of the offense, for the defendants, and for the community. And you have always responded, even when I did tough questioning of you, with dignity, professionalism. You were prepared and respect. And I want to thank you personally for that. And the community thanks you for it.
Thank you.
And Cassandra, first of all, I knew Cassandra's dad.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And it kind of dates me, not you, Cassandra. He was it Inspector General?
Deputy Inspector General.
Deputy Inspector General, who worked, I think initially when I was a young assistant and then DA, on some really difficult cases. An escape by 2 murderers from the Shangam Correctional. It's pronounced Shangam, spelled Shawangunk.
Yep.
But it's Shangam. And also on some other, I think the Willie Bosket case he was involved in at some point, but what a good man. And then met Cassandra when she was brought on to the DA's office again to act as, in essence, the coordinator. What is your title?
My title is, through the county, it's Director of Projects for IPVI. Essentially, I'm the project manager.
I know what IPVI stands for,
Okay.
but no one else will. So.
Sure. So IPVI stands for Intimate Partner Violence Intervention.
Which used to be identified in the past as domestic violence, but the definition has expanded to include intimate partners.
It has. This intervention is housed at a John Jay College and was developed by the National Network for Safe Communities. They had initially implemented this program down in High Point, North Carolina, several years ago, and I want to say in the mid-2000s, after they had implemented what they called as the group violence intervention, which is to target gang and group violence. So
It was part of that.
Well, it was after that. They used the group violence intervention to develop the intimate partner violence intervention. So what happened was they actually significantly reduced the amount of the homicides that they had in High Point, North Carolina.
On gang violence?
Yes,
Why can't we get that?
Yes, we hopefully we will, right? But they found out that there was
also New York City, perhaps.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so they reduced their homicides and they looked at the homicides that they still had. What was going on there? And they realized that they were domestic in nature. So they took the group violence intervention and tailored it to this intimate partner violence intervention. And the city of Kingston is actually the first pilot in the United States or in the country to implement the intimate partner violence intervention.
Now, I believe the two of you started that
We did.
when I was still on the bench.
We did,
correct?
Judge.
Yes, I remember coming to meet with you about this.
That's true. You were coming to sell it to me, and you realize it's not going to be a hard sell because domestic violence, as you know, Liz, when I was DA, was the one area that, along with gang violence, that really needed attention. We worked so hard on it. Mike Kavanaugh, the DA before me, worked so hard. But we didn't have the ability that your initiative does in incorporating all of it together. And it was great during the time I was there. So.
And in fact, the Intimate Partner Violence Intervention Task Force that we have here, and the reason why the Department of Criminal Justice Services asked Kingston to be the pilot program is because of all of the work that had been done from the start of domestic violence court back in 2006. And it was because of the coordinated effort we had already established in Ulster County that brought them here to ask us to be the pilot program in New York State.
That's great.
For the first program in the country, which is pretty remarkable.
That makes me kind of proud of the fact that at least we opened the door.
Absolutely.
Because as much as we fought, and I know you know, Liz, I used to have meetings regularly with police, with Family of Woodstock.
Yes.
Everything to try to do something, but it was beyond our ability. We needed an initiative like this. But it's good to know at least that the door became open.
It is because of that and because of the coordinated effort that was already, the groundwork was already laid from all those years that they approached us and we were really able to implement it. It's pretty remarkable.
It truly is. And I know many times I would advise you as an assistant and then after trials were over as a judge. And the one thing, and it shows the two of your dedication, but I would tell you many times, talk to Carnwright. You cannot continue to handle just child abuse and domestic violence because those cases, if you do them right, and you did, they tear you apart. It takes so much out of you personally that I didn't want to see you burn out. And you too have been doing this now for how many years?
Almost a full 5.
IPVI for 5. I've been in the office now for 15.
And the burnout in major DA's offices for people doing what you do is typically 2, maybe 3. So the fact that you continue to handle the most difficult and the most emotionally riveting cases and do it and still be alive is amazing, and it's a compliment to both of you. So tell me a little bit more. What have you done with this initiative that has expanded on what we tried to do when I was DA?
And I just want to go back. Mr. Carnwright was always open to me handling cases other than domestic violence, and I always came back to it. I just always came back to it. It's a calling.
Tell me that, and it is a calling.
It is.
And although it is so stressful for the two of you, there is no greater reward. I still say that. There is no greater reward than being able to tell an individual who's a victim of domestic violence, who feared, who distrusted the system, who feared going through the process. There's no greater feeling to me when I was DA or an assistant to tell them that we are in their corner and that the person will be held accountable and that they feel better about themselves, because it takes great courage for them to stand up and go through what is a difficult process. But they couldn't do it without people like you and Cassandra.
And that's what this intervention has really done within our communities. It has, what our goal is to send the message to offenders that our community collectively is not going to stand for intimate partner violence. And the hope is that it takes the onus off of the victim and puts it onto the community to send the message that this is unacceptable, and we are going to do everything that we can to both help you and also hold you accountable so that we can stop these intergenerational cycles of abuse. And so that's really what the goal is. And we utilize procedural justice and focused deterrence, and Cassandra can talk a lot more about that. We go out and we train law enforcement on focused deterrence and procedural justice and the intervention. It's changed our relationship with law enforcement.
And victims.
And with victims, absolutely, absolutely. As I have had over the past 5 years a lot of success with explaining to a victim of intimate partner violence what the purpose of the intervention is, how we are trying to help their family as well as hold the offender accountable, and it's actually helped increase victim cooperation because of the approach.
Definitely. And you see that, I hate statistics, but I take it you also see that statistically in the number of cases that are being reported, the number of cases that receive good results. And a good result could be anything, and the fact that when they see individuals held accountable, no matter what we're not always talking state prison, jail, probation, counseling, but if they see an individual held accountable, then victims of domestic violence will be far more ready to come forward. So what is focus? Tell me some of these terms.
Just to go back to what Liz was saying about the victims also, what we've been able to do with our task force is get information quicker than we used to get it. We have an email address that we've established for everyone on our task force, which is quite a bit of people. It encompasses the DA's office, probation, parole, crime victims assistance program, the Family Child Advocacy Center. Family of Woodstock isn't on that email, that particular email, but we do communicate with them quite frequently. So when there's a domestic incident report filed with one of our IPVI...
Explain to the general public what a domestic incident report is, when officers are required to file that.
I'll let Liz speak to that because legally she can explain that better.
So in New York, we have what's called a domestic incident report. Anytime law enforcement responds to a reported incident of domestic violence, they're required by law to file a domestic incident report with the state.
And that, when you say domestic violence, people identify violence with physical injury. It's beyond that, correct?
Yes.
So what is the scope of domestic violence as it fits into domestic incident reports that have to be filed?
In terms of an offense that's committed against a member of the same family or household, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, parent, child, and it doesn't
make the substance of it. Go ahead.
It doesn't only include physical violence. If there's threats, stalking, a verbal argument that an officer feels like there's something more than just a verbal argument, they will file a domestic incident report. That is, if they feel like the information hasn't been forthcoming as to threats or the nature of
So under those circumstances, the officer has some discretion to either bring a charge or at least file a domestic incident report?
Well, in New York, there isn't as much discretion with domestic violence cases or domestic
pretty much
incidents.
mandated, isn't
It is mandated. So if an officer has probable cause that a misdemeanor has occurred, they have to make an arrest. They don't have the discretion.
And a misdemeanor under these cases would be either an assault or it could be a verbal harassment by telephone or cell phone. It could be stalking, which is short of physical violence. There are many different categories that fit into that misdemeanor that become mandated arrests.
Correct. It could be menacing. Somebody physically menacing their intimate partner. That's a misdemeanor.
To the
and
general
there's
public,
no
what is
discretion.
menacing?
Putting a victim in fear of physical injury by your physical presence or the way that you're physically approaching
So
an
it
intimate
carries
partner.
all kinds of improper behavior that is well beyond physical violence, physical injury, which is great. And those are mandated arrests, correct? Not just the filing of an instrument, an accusatory instrument, it's an arrestable offense. Is that right?
Yes. So officers will file domestic incident reports even when an arrest is not made. And with our intervention, that's where it starts.
So when the police officers, I'm sorry to interrupt, you had 10 years of this when I was on the bench. But it's so
I enjoy it.
You are first of probably 200 lawyers that could possibly say with sincerity that they enjoyed as the appellate division said with the defendant, that they were upset that I interrogated them. What the hell are you Anyway, regardless of that, a domestic incident report is filed even if an arrest is not made.
Correct.
And where does that domestic incident report go to and how quickly?
So it gets filed with the Department of Criminal Justice Services, and there's a database throughout the state where law enforcement can access domestic incident reports that have been filed in any county within New York State. Ulster County, and we have since 1994, we have kept the domestic incident reports housed in Ulster County. In about 2012, we developed a new database. Right. And so now we have a database that we upload. We actually scan in and upload every single domestic incident report that's filed within the county, and Senior Investigator Debbie McCoy from the Family and Child Advocacy Center and myself review every single domestic incident report that comes through the county through this database that we've developed that also helps us manage our intimate partner violence intervention. Great. And with IPVI, with the intervention, what happens is the filing of a domestic incident report, whether an arrest was made or not made, starts the awareness of our task force of an individual who has committed an act of intimate partner violence, or we suspect that intimate partner violence is occurring in the home, and we intervene immediately.
Which is so important for the officers that are outside, because they have available to them immediately now access to, even if somebody's not arrested, that there is a history there.
Absolutely.
Where before we used to get an order of protection, it was a piece of paper that was given to the victim. And before you, Liz, that wasn't even put in a database, wasn't put in a computer. Mm-hmm. So these officers didn't know the existence of an order of protection or a history of violence. Even if it's allegations of violence, officers need to know that so they can make the right decisions.
Absolutely.
Liz, can I ask a question?
This is Dan.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. There's been, quite a bit of talk in regard to how officers are trained for these kinds of sensitive issues on the front line, and there's also been a lot of talk about bringing a counselor or a social service worker onto the site. And how is that going? Because the officers can only be educated so much. Am I correct? Or are they really well equipped nowadays here in Ulster County to deal with all these sensitive issues that they find?
So, in regards to officers responding to calls for domestic violence, I'm not aware that there are counselors who are going out with officers. I mean, as we all know, these calls are the most dangerous calls for officers to go on. And the first purpose is to ensure the safety of everybody in that household before even thinking about bringing a counselor in to speak to a victim. What our task force does is we get a crime victims counselor involved immediately within hours of the officer's response to that call for service. And so we're helping to intervene with services as close in time to the officer's response, while also Cassandra and I train any any jurisdiction that has the IPVI program. We go out and we train those officers as to the program. We've seen a mindset shift with law enforcement within our community over the past 5 years, that we have been doing this intervention and how they're looking at domestic violence. And I always train officers and say, you're responding to a call for the report of an assault. You're not responding to a domestic. Look at it as if it's a call for an assault. And it really shifts the mindset of that officer to respond to that call appropriately. But I have not heard.
So it sounds like the education for officers has expanded immensely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
And you know something, Dan, if I can, there are always social workers, police, DAs. It always wasn't very pretty at all. And when we started with Jimmy McCoy at the outset, when I was DA, with that domestic violence task force, just the meeting of getting family of Woodstock, social workers, police officers, or at least the heads of police agencies and the DA in one room, I mean, it wasn't pretty. I think you were there for some of them all. It began before you came on. It wasn't fun. There really was a distrust and sometimes an animosity between the groups, because philosophically it was so different. Because of agencies like this, because of the work that was done even beforehand, that distrust has dissipated, and now there is a trust. And police officers, as Liz said, you can't, in all due respect, you can't take a social worker to the initial response to domestic violence. Domestic violence may be the most violent episode for any officer to respond to. The 2 officers in New York City that were shot and killed, domestic violence. Responding to. It is the most dangerous. You can't, this defund the police garbage, in all due respect. You can't send a social worker to do a police officer's initial job. But what these folks have done, and amplified tremendously, far more than I was ever able to do, is they get crime victims assistants, social workers, counselors, to help the victims, and also work with the police at the very rate as humanly possible after the dangerous situation has calmed down. And that we didn't have. We had crime victims, but
we also bring services to the offender also. And that's the other huge piece that has changed. And that is a big a primary purpose, is to offer services to the offender. Say, we want to see you change your behavior. Here is a way to help you to change your behavior. But if you don't change your behavior, then we're going to hold you accountable.
And we did that to some respect with the Evolve program, but this has morphed into such a better initiative that it's you guys, the 2 of you should be immensely proud.
We are, and we are able to respond really, really quickly, and that goes for holding offenders accountable with probation and parole on those emails. That when these domestic incidents come out, we know who our chronic offenders are, and we're able to get to them quicker to.
Even if there were not arrests in the past,
Correct.
You know when there are repeated domestic incidents, you know that it's a dangerous situation. So, well, we have about 1 minute left. So, how unusual, but I'm going to let the two of you talk.
Well, I think Liz was being humble a little while ago, saying that the county developed a database. Liz developed that database for the DIRs, and she also developed what we call our Intimate Partner Violence Intervention Database. So we're able to track more efficiently and effectively what's going on with our offenders. So I have to bring up that. I have to give her kudos for that because it's
Good for you,
amazing. I
Cassandra.
use that every day.
That's to a larger extent than what's available to you through the state of New York. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in essence, you've incorporated the two?
Yes.
That's incredible. That is really hard to do.
And honestly, I, as a project manager, not knowing all of the key players that were on the team, Liz has been such a great support to me and driving this thing forward. And honestly, the cases end with the prosecution, right? So we start, the police file a domestic incident report, we get it, everything happens in between, Liz prosecutes, and she's also gotten other attorneys at the DA's office on board with creating more of a streamline, consistent prosecution with what we're doing across the office. So that's been immensely helpful to everyone.
Well, we're done. I want to thank both of you so much. And I've been trying to get you guys on. I finally succeeded.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's important the public gets to hear the message. And
We agree.
thank you for all your work
Thank
in the
you.
past and even more so now. Thanks again. That ends up our sessions for today at Kingston Community Radio. I can't believe I got past the first day without Anthony Marmo here, my good friend, and I hope he gets back soon. So you take care, Dan. Thank you again. Please tell your husband and everybody with law enforcement, are we still on? There are a lot of good people that have their backs.
Will do.
Do not become discouraged.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Don Williams, for bringing us around to the whole 7 to 9 a.m. Wonderful, wonderful show, and thank you for sharing the morning with us and participating in Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and our live streaming on mykcr.org. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Rondout Savings Bank, always working for you and the community with branches in Kingston, West Hurley, and Hyde Park. Also online at rondoutbank.com, equal housing lender, member FDIC. And thank you for sharing the morning with us. Inspired discussions of, by, and for the community. And we invite you to be with us tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., as 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every weekday. Until tomorrow, we wish you every success in growing and developing Kingston and all our neighboring communities. We now return you to Magic 92.5.